Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're bringing you another first look at a ship that has just entered super testing here in Update 0.9.9. Today we're going to take a look over Tier VII Premium French Battleship Strasbourg. Strasbourg, of course, is the sister ship of existing French premium battleship down at Tier 6, and that is Dunkerque. Dunkerque, for those of you that don't know or weren't playing the game back in, was the very first French battleship ever introduced into the game. And calling her a battleship is kind of a misnomer, but we're gonna get into that as we kind of go through this review. So let's talk about Strasbourg. All right, so as we do, we start off at the top. We look over the survivability and the armor layout. Starting with hit points, 52,600. This is identical to Dunkirk down at Tier 6. For Tier 6, this is not a bad number. For Tier 7, this is worst in tier. This steals the worst in tier crown away from her sister ship in the tech tree, and that is French battleship Lyon, which has only 800 more hit points than this. As you would expect, her armor scheme is identical to that of Dunkirk. She remains a French battleship and will eat full pin HE salvos from everything at heavy cruiser or potentially even light cruiser with IFHE and above. She's got all these 26mm extremities, 26mm deck armor. You've got basically no armor in the superstructure as you would expect. Her turret, her barbettes here and everything are decently armored, and of course the conning tower, but the conning tower and the barbettes are about it. Her belt armor is down here, 283. She does have a little bit of a turtle back here. You can kind of see it. This is very similar to what you find when you look at the German battleship armor schemes, the way it's modeled in here. Her belt does taper a bit as well. So, I mean, this armor scheme is actually not that bad in terms of avoiding, like if you angle the ship decently, she can take a fair chunk of damage from AP. The problem is she eats full pen HE damage for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all day long. And yeah, expect to be on fire a whole lot. That's pretty much what I can say about playing Dunkirk. That's the experience. Expect to be on fire a whole lot. Maneuverability and concealment. Dunkirk down at Tier 6 has really good speed for a Tier 6 battleship. 31 knots. For some reason, Strasbourg is slower. I can't explain this. She's a knot and a half slower. I don't know why. At this tier, this top speed is much more pedestrian, common, something like that. Lyon is slower than this, I think. Hood and Gneisenau run away with this category. They're 32 knots in speed, so this is not earth-shattering. I will say that handling-wise, her turning circle and rudder shift are both identical to Dunkirk, and in this tier, these are really good numbers. For battleships, especially a Tier 7 battleship, she ought to handle pretty well. Lyon is still lower on the turning circle, but, I mean, less speed. This thing has more speed, larger turning circle, and it's probably a washout. This ship handles pretty well. Like, she's not a cruiser, of course, but trust me, you can dodge things effectively and move this ship around aboard. She does okay. Concealment-wise, there's nothing really new here. A full stealth rig Strasbourg has the same detection as a full stealth Dunkirk. That's 14.8 kilometers. For Tier 7, that is terrible. That is absolutely garbage. It's not worst in tier, but you're not far behind. The only other two Tier 7 battleships that have worse detection are Nagato, both Japanese, Nagato and Ashitaka. And we're talking about Nagato's is 14.9 and Ashitaka's is 15.1. So you're only 0.3 of a kilometer off worst in tier detection with this ship. Consider that best in tier detection at the other end of the scale, I think was Florida, and it's like 11.7. So literally every other battleship in your tier outspots you. And we haven't even gotten into her matchmaking spread, where things like Roma, for example, will easily outspot this ship and do horrible things to it if they can catch her broadside. So definitely not a lot to like about that. She's outspotted by basically everything else in her tier, and they basically everything that outspots her in her tier also outguns her. Speaking of guns, let's talk about the main battery. So surely, guys, if we're pulling Tier 6 guns up into Tier 7, things are changing, right? Something has to have changed. Well, yes, there have been some improvements here. For starters, Strasbourg has more range than her Tier 6 sister ship. You see there, 19.1 kilometers. That is almost a full kilometer more than Dunkirk has at Tier 6. Okay, that's not bad. Her reload speed, you see there, 21 seconds. That is a nice buff. Dunkirk reloads these same guns in 26 seconds. So she gets a nice rate of fire increase, about almost 20%. That's pretty noteworthy. She's going to need these things, though, because her accuracy has not improved one iota. Dunkirk's guns are not known for their consistency. Despite being nearly the same caliber of those as Tier 5 Premium Italian Battleship Giulio Cesare, which mounts 320mm guns. Dunkirk, one tier higher, mounts 330mm guns. Dunkirk and Strasbourg, here at Tier 7, have much worse dispersion ellipses and much higher sigma values than Cesare. In fact, Strasbourg has the same sigma values as another recent release Tier 7 battleship, that is USS Florida. The trouble is that Florida's base dispersion ellipse is already 20% smaller. You see there, Strasbourg's dispersion is 253. Florida's dispersion circle is around 200 meters or so. And Florida, by the way, puts 50% more shells into that dispersion ellipse. Now, Florida has almost 50% higher reload, okay? So there's a trade-off here. But the problem is, the trouble for me is that, like, when Florida pulls the trigger, you're pretty likely to hit whatever it is you're aiming at. Strasbourg, and certainly Dunkirk down Tier 6, look like have the opposite problem, right? This is a very spray and pray kind of gun configuration. You're pulling the trigger more often, but your shells aren't going to go where you want them to, and you're going to pull the trigger and cross your fingers and hope you've sacrificed enough goats to RNGesus. It's not exactly what you want out of a battleship looking to have a big impact on a game. Secondary batteries. There's not much to talk about here. She has some 130mm secondaries that are largely focused astern of the ship here. They have a 5-kilometer range and a decent rate of fire. You see there, they reload every 5 seconds. In close quarters combat, you might get some fires out of these things, but let's be honest, if you're in close quarters with this ship, the situation is already desperate enough that a fire or two is probably not going to make a significant difference. Aaa Defense. Bad news continues here, guys, unfortunately. For a ship that's going to regularly see Tier 8 aircraft carriers, Strasbourg's Aaa defenses are pretty awful. In fact, somehow they managed to be even worse marginally, but they are worse than those of Dunkirk down at Tier 6 by virtue of the fact that she has a slightly different arrangement here of these 37mm guns that make up her mid-range aura. Yeah, she can't quite manage to wrest the worst in Tier A sweet crown away from Ashitaka, but she is not that far behind. Shooting down planes in this ship, even Tier 6 planes like Furious and Ryuho and all this stuff, will be the exception and not the rule. In fact, every single Tier 7 cruiser in the game has more AA power than Strasbourg does. Ouch. Consumables. Now, here we have some good things to talk about, okay? In addition to the damage control party, the standard heal, and the choice between fighter and spotting aircraft, that you get these exact same picks over on Dunkirk. Basically, you also get access to the main battery reload booster consumable. So like Tier 9 Premium French battleship Jean Bart, Strasbourg has some interesting burst damage capability. When you couple this with the hilarious fire chance on the main battery shells, it's 35% per shell, by the way, in case you missed it while we were looking at that a minute ago. Even a battleship or a heavy cruiser that flat out refuses to show you a good angle for your AP to bite in can find itself in trouble in a hurry between HE spam and fires. So Strasbourg, I'm kind of comparing her to Jean Bart just because she has this consumable. The problem is that the comparison kind of ends there. Jean Bart has a significantly better hull. Jean Bart has some of the best AA in her tier. If you're an aircraft carrier player, you don't want to go near Jean Bart, right? Whereas if you're an aircraft carrier player and you see a Strasbourg in your game, you're just salivating. You're like, yes, free damage. I can just strike this guy and lose like nothing. Completely different experience. Playing against the ships. Playing as them, I feel like it might be a little similar, right? You're going to take a lot of HE's damage from all angles. You have this reload booster that you can punish opposing ships that make positional errors in front of you, or if you're able to put yourself in a position where you can just throw HE at something that's getting low, a low health battleship, you can probably burn him out. But Strasbourg is going to be much more challenging to play than Jean Bart. Jean Bart is very forgiving to battleship players of all skill levels. Strasbourg is not going to have this problem, I don't fear. And that's really the trouble, I think. At the end of the day, that main battery reload booster is attached to a very weak hull in a very competitive tier. Remember, this ship is going to find itself in games with Musashis, and Iowas and Lexingtons and Prince Eugens. Consider that there are heavy cruisers in Tier 8 with nearly this much health. In fact, the Tier 9 battle cruisers that she'll be up against, ships like Alaska or Siegfried or Kronstadt, have more health and nearly as much throw weight in their broadside weight in their broadsides, right? In terms of shell weights and calibers and everything. Like, some of the battle cruisers outgun this thing in her matchmaking spread. Yes, they're 2 tiers higher, but she's going to see Tier 9 opponents, guys. It's clear that this ship wants to play like a battle cruiser, but I really feel like she's going to struggle to find a role like that when she's on bottom. When she's on top tier, even middle tier, there's some possibilities, some opportunities for this ship. When she's bottom tier, it's going to be struggle bus city, I think, playing this thing. It's going to be tough. Yeah, it's about all I can say there. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed our quick walk and look around Strasbourg. Be safe out there, wash your hands, and I'll catch you next time.